Test, 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 test. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I would like to I've been attempting to make a video about my feminine TE. It's proving to be so difficult. It is one of the functions that I'm least passionate about. I think it's because it's a DE function and I dislike that I am a DE. Do we, as savior DEs, want to be playing the DE game? No, absolutely not. We're just forced to. It's our savior state. So we're constantly putting the tribe above ourselves, even though we don't really want to. But it's just the way we're wired and the way we must operate. My experience of being a savior feminine TE, I am very consensus oriented. It's like those couples that are like, oh, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? You just always have to do whatever the other person wants to do rather than coming up with your own desires. I'm very agreeable. I would say that compared to a lot of other people, I'm very non-confrontational. Confrontation makes me extremely uncomfortable. With the masculine TEs, it definitely makes me uncomfortable, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Steve Jobs has famously talked about in business, what makes a great product is not all the features and the functions that you've added to the product, but also all the times you say no to the features and the functions. I am in business. I always erred on the side of wanting to accommodate everything the customer wanted. It does make me great at things like dealing with the customers and the TE, what the tribe wants, but I always had to fight that urge to accommodate every single request. Whether it was an idea, a suggestion, a complaint, I always took it to heart. Another reason why I dislike being savior feminine TE, I genuinely hate bothering people and getting permission. And in a lot of situations, I'll just kind of avoid things if it means that I don't have to bother someone. It's a contradiction coming from someone like me because I'm a play first EP. By all accounts, I should be always wanting to bother people, talking things out with people, but I recently found out that I am a social type number one, not a number two, as most EPs should be. I can only describe it as exhausting. Even though it's my savior state to be DE, so tribe above self, and I'm constantly doing that all day, I find it incredibly, incredibly draining because it's almost like a mask that I put on and I'm almost faking it. And there's nothing in me that wants to do it, but I just feel like I have to. When I don't move the way that the tribe wants me to, I feel huge amounts of guilt. Dumb. And then when I am forced to go against the tribe, I feel very unstable and I feel very fearful of conflict. I'm very conflict avoidant. And it probably doesn't help that I am a savior feminine SE. The physiological reactions, the heart rate, the extreme physical discomfort really doesn't help. It just makes me more fearful. It's like this snowball of fear that just overtakes me. So even though I am tribe above self, because of how exhausting and how much energy it depletes from me, I tend to isolate myself and I feel like I live my life in a very loner way. I tend to avoid people. I don't really socialize all that much. Socialization is really for TE purposes at work to get things done. I very much relate to social type number one, demon friends. I've known ever since I was a child, even going to things like sleepovers. First thing in the morning, everyone's up, they're eating breakfast. The last thing I wanted to do when I woke up and I'm groggy in a completely new environment is having to go down and smile and be like, hi, everyone. Like as though I'm this like morning sunshine princess. Like, fuck that. Feminine savior TE causes me a lot of problems and energy drainage because I am afraid of conflict. I'm also afraid to be assertive. And again, that conflicts with the whole social type number one thing because social type number ones are supposed to be driven and they're supposed to want to crush others, dominate, be number one. I do want to be number one and I take extreme pride in my work and into my product, but I will back off very easily. For that reason, I'm a very passive number one and I get to my goals in a very chill way. I will very much just stay out of things, stay out of drama. I don't want to be a part of it. It drains too much of my energy, and I would rather just be by myself in my own lane doing my own thing. Some good things about being savior feminine TE, I think that I'm very easy to work with. So I am kept in mind for a lot of different projects. I have the reputation of very collaborative. Because of that, I get scooped up in a lot of projects and opportunities that I didn't necessarily go looking for, but found me. It's a very EP thing to say that everything just fell into my lap, but that's genuinely the way I feel. Just because I said yes and went along for the ride, my husband and I, we started our own business and then we sold that business to another big company in Japan. Now I run the marketing and the branding for my family's business. I'm currently serving on the board of the zoo here in Hawaii. My dad and I co-wrote and published a children's book together. And it's not because I set all of those things in motion. It's really that other people know that I'm really easy to work with. They know that I'm down and that I take my work and my products really seriously. And so I feel like that makes me a good candidate to just scoop up and bring along. I am passive though. I'm not going to go out of my way to like dig through things and be like, what can I take control over? I'm not like that at all. But if I'm given a task, I'm going to do it exceptionally well. Okay, that's super flexy and cringy. Sorry about that. Okay, another pro about being a savior TE is that I think I'm solution oriented and I'm very proud of that. I don't just mull in problems. I don't like to rehash problems. I'm very much like okay, how do we fix this and fix it now? That is a very ST way to think about things. I forgot to mention my full type. My full type is I'm a double feminine, SETE, play, blast, sleep, consume, social type number 1. So I do have that very SETE-ness in me where not only do I want to just do things in the physical world, but I want it to be fixed now. When things come up, I feel like I can mobilize myself very quickly towards a solution and work with others toward a solution. So I feel like it makes me a useful person. Another pro is that I don't take things too personally. In my savior calm state, I don't really get swayed too much out of that calm. I am experiencing things like panic and dread and fear on the inside, but I'm pretty stoic on the outside. I don't take things too personally unless it affects my FI. And I feel like because everyone's FI is so different, it probably catches a lot of people off guard when my FI does get triggered and they're like, whoa, like what happened? Who are you? But yeah, I'm pretty chill otherwise. I'm very mellow. Having Savior TE is very advantageous to business because you're already thinking about the customer's preferences, the customer's pain points, all of that. And it's done in a very natural savior state. So it's not something that I'm putting a whole lot of effort into having to research. It comes naturally to me. I mentioned this before, but I got my very first job when I was 15 and I loved it. Up until that point, I feel like you're doing things like chores and favors. But when you finally get a job, it's like you can do a job, get paid for it. And if you do your job well, you can get promoted, you can get raises, you can get bonuses. And it all just felt like this game that you could win. So I've always loved the workplace. You can make fun of me for that. It's fine. I hate to admit this, but my productivity does depend on that external push. If I am at home by myself, it's really hard for me to structure things out and to have that internal push to get things done and move things forward. The more urgent deadlines there are, the more people knocking on my door and sending me emails, the more you're going to get out of me because TE is extroverted. I've been thinking lately how interesting of a coin TE and FI is. If you swing from one to the other, it's so different. It's like a completely different person. Of course, my savior state in any given situation, I'm a feminine TE. So I'm just going to be passive, agreeable, pleasant, cordial, professional, agreeable, polite. But once my masculine FI is triggered, that's a totally different beast. Ever since getting into ops, I always thought, what is the weight? What is the weight of your functions? What is stronger, masculine or double activated? Savior? I really found it helpful that Dave in Kendrick's recent, he mentioned that your introverted functions are king, your savior functions are queen, and then your masculine functions. So it was really nice to have that order. I just want to set a disclaimer. I am a demon consume. So if that information was already out there, it was new to me. Okay, so if that is the order that we should be looking at, then my introverted functions are FI and NI, and they're both masculine. Next would be my savior functions, SC and my TE. and then my masculine functions, which are my introverted functions, which are already king. I'm not really sure what to conclude. That answers a lot of questions though, because coming into ops from Myers-Briggs, I strongly identified as an INFP, and that makes sense because NI and my FI are my masculine functions. Going back to TE as a function, so it's a thinking function that's tribe oriented. One of the ways it gets misconstrued is that because it's tribe above self, that you're really selfless and you're thinking about others and you're putting others first. It's true to a degree, but we have to remember that it's a thinking function. So there's no feeling in it. It's just thinking and reasoning. The way I experience it is that I am always wanting to do what is courteous, what is proper, the right thing to do, and the thing that's going to benefit the maximum amount of people as a solution. So there's not a lot of warmth or affection. It's very detached. And I think that's one of the interesting things is that as a feminine TE, I'm friendly, I'm very accommodating, but I'm also very detached. And I think people have described me as friendly but aloof and detached. And that is so true. It doesn't have to look robotic and logic. There can be a lot of energy in it, friendliness, but it's really for group consensus and more like, let's get everyone on the same page rather than let's get everyone on the same vibe and raise the vibe. I mean, that's fine to do as long as we're still accomplishing the mission at hand. And I've always thought that the TE-FI coin is a great analogy for fight or flight. At least for me, the feminine TE is flight and the masculine FI is fight. So when faced in a confrontation or some type of dangerous situation, I think my first instinct as feminine TE is flight. I don't want to deal with the confrontation. I'm not going to fight anyone, TE fight anyone. So my first instinct is to run away, to escape. Like, no, thank you. But if it has anything to do with my masculine FI, I'm not backing down. I'm not backing down for shit. Yeah, I will fight you. There's even a thread on one of the Facebook groups, and it was talking about what is scarier, masculine TE or masculine FI. I think that masculine TE is scary in social settings and it more makes me uncomfortable rather than scared. When voices are being raised at me, yeah, my heart races and I hate it, but it makes me just more uncomfortable versus I feel like masculine FI is a lot more scary. It's a lot more personal, it's a lot more dark, and there is no end because it's an internal subjective thing. If that person is locked on to something, they're not giving in. That's a hill they're going to die on and they're going to take you down with them. Okay, but this video is not about FI, it's about TE. I wanted to share a few tips that I've had to learn the hard way of living life as a savior DE, constantly putting others above myself. One of the hardest things that I've had to learn to do is how to manage people. I don't like to tell people what to do. I don't like to butt heads. It's hard for me to manage people because as a social type 1, I am so driven to do the best work, but to do the best work means that I have to effectively manage my team. And it doesn't matter if it makes me uncomfortable to tell people what to do or to shoot ideas down. It's something that I have to do. It was such an uncomfortable learning curve that I had to go through. And one of the ways that I was able to learn how to manage people is by using systems, checklists, and having people responsible for their own tasks. Instead of asking, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you get that done? I can just look at our shared communication board and see that it got checked off because it adds a little bit of distance in between. It's kind of like when you stab someone, it's a little too personal, but if you have a gun, there's some space in between. It's kind of like that. Also, what really helped me is to use scripts and templates, load them up to learn how to delegate and learn how to push back. I learned a lot from, he was actually a masculine FE consultant type of person who came and worked with us for a few months. I would just watch and observe the way he would train people to do things. Before seeing how he did that, I would have been really awkward asking someone to do something. So for example, being a feminine TE, I would say things like, hey, whenever you have time, so as not to inconvenience you after you do this. It was just so weak and dumb. But I would listen to him, masculine FE, put his hand on their shoulder and be like, hey, you're doing a really great job with that. But after you're done with that, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. And it's going to come out fantastic. Like, it was like, whoa. Whoa, he said it so effortlessly. Everyone was in good spirits. And it was like, okay, you know what? I think I can learn something from FE. Even though in my head I'm shitting on FE all the time in business, like they've got some good shit. So when you do hear those great scripts, internalize it, write it down, whatever you need to do, and start using that. And the more you use it, the more natural it's going to start to sound. So it doesn't feel so rigid and awkward. And then people start responding better to you. That's been a great one for me. Okay, another one, don't make the mistake of the people pleaser tattoo. It's basically when you're getting your tattoo done and you secretly don't really like it, but you just kind of say, yeah, it's great. And you go for it even though it's a permanent ass tattoo. And that is a people pleaser tattoo. You have to live with that forever just because you couldn't say no and you couldn't push back and you couldn't be confrontational or assertive. That's something that I think about all the time now too. Maybe in the moment you're just avoiding discomfort, but by being a people pleaser, you could be permanently affecting the outcome of something just because you couldn't say no. Another thing that how to disagree is I disagree through posing questions because it's non-confrontational. So it's my little loophole of being combative, trying to be masculine TE without having any of the masculine TE hardware. If someone says something that I strongly disagree with, it's like, boom, devil's advocate. Hey, but didn't we try that before and it ended up having these results? Didn't our competitors already do that? Are we gonna look like we're just copying them? Questions are great. They're non-threatening and it forces the ball back into the other person's hands and they have to explain themselves. And so it's perfect. Next one is something that I also had to learn over a decade. In written communication, I am like way too detailed, way too explanatory. Brevity is king. Brevity is king. I am embarrassed to look at some of the emails I used to send like 10 years ago. They were walls of text. It is also due to Demon and I and not being able to conclude. I had the bad habit of over explaining myself. Instead of just giving an answer, I would pose options so that they could continue the discussion with what they thought. And it's that feminine TE of always wanting consensus that made me fish for what they thought, when in reality, to get to the end goal, is that necessary? No. You're just wasting your time, their time. Brevity is king. For someone who, like me, has demon and I can't organize and I can't conclude and narrow down and prioritize all of that, my productivity skyrocketed when I did this. And this like really took me to the next level. This wasn't an easy switch for me to make, but once I did it and I got used to it, it really, really took me to the next level. Is that I put all of my tasks on a calendar and I share my calendar. And that's the most important thing. When I put things on my calendar, I can actually see how long the task took me. I can see the blocks getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Over time, through repetition and muscle memory, I'm getting better at the task. So that's pretty motivating to see. And also because I share my calendar, I know that I'm accountable because other people are looking at it and they can also see how long it's taking me. So if I put something like merchandise inventory and it's like a 3-hour block, people are going to be like, what the fuck? Like, why does it take you 3 hours to do inventory? And so it keeps me on my toes, knowing that other people are seeing it. Also, when I delegate those tasks out, they know that it only takes me 30 minutes. So it should not be taking you like 4 hours. You know what I mean? Sharing your calendar, it really keeps you accountable. Want to say anything? Okay, bye. Lastly, I do want to talk about some of the flaws that I see in myself as a savior TE and things that I'm currently working on. Even though I shit on it all the time, FE is important. I am biased to think that TE is more important than FE in situations like business. Every business, whether you like it or not, has people, and people equals you need to care about their F. For me, because I am demon masculine FI, to me, it's like feelings are highly personal. And I think that I could do a better job of being more warm and sharing my personal things with the people that I work with. I definitely don't. That's something that I want to get better at is the FE, the showing the appreciation, the sharing things about myself instead of just strictly being ST work, work, work all the time. I feel like I'm so private about my FI that I feel like I'm even a stranger to my own family. I just feel naturally disposed to creating distance between the people closest to me because the things that I go through and my feelings to me are just highly personal. And it's not like I'm necessarily like hiding anything. It's more like I don't want drama. I don't want confrontation. I deal with my own shit by myself, but I could probably do a better job of letting others in. And I think what makes that hard for me is that I feel absolutely humiliated when people, for example, consult each other about my struggles. I've shared this before, but as a consume last feminine SE, it's just in my cards to have body image issues, body dysmorphia. I still do. I don't think it's anything you get over. It was especially bad when I was in high school. It was just very well known at that time that I was struggling deeply with an eating disorder to the point where I had to get treatment, go to recovery. When I went off to college, because it was a brand new environment, my problems started up again. And I think I sort of disclosed it to my boyfriend at the time. We were going to different schools. As an FE, I think he really wanted me to feel cared for. People were thinking about me, but I received a card in my dorm mailbox. It was signed by all of his friends saying things like, keep your chin up, you can do it, we love you. And it just felt so, I just felt so violated. It was too much for me to deal with. At the time, I was honestly angry, so angry that he crossed that border, shared it with everyone, and then now they were all talking about it. I just remember I just felt so violated. It was the same thing when I was going through all that stuff in high school and it was like really, really bad. And then like I would go to church with my parents and then one of the youth pastors would come over and like give me a long hug and like pray over me. Like feelings are so personal to me, and when things like that happen, it reinforces in me that I never, ever, ever want to tell people about my problems anymore. Do you know what I mean? I'm really open with strangers and I'm really candid about my experiences if I'm in control of it and I get to share my story. But when other people are talking about it for me, okay, anyway, this is not an FI video. This is a TE video. Sorry. My life philosophy is that I feel like it's everybody's own responsibility to sort out their own lives. You know yourself the best. Again, that's a very FI thing to say. I'm sure a lot of you have also heard about how toxic therapy is also on the rise. And that's when therapists are supposed to be providing tools and solutions for people to get over the things that they can't let go of and traumatic events. But it becomes an issue in and of itself if that person is coming week after week after week and talking about the same situations over and over and over. And when you talk about it, you're reliving it again, like washing your body with that same flood of chemicals. And it's those people that won't stop talking about it. At that point, it's like you have to believe that they want to stay stuck with that and that they actually want to identify with that. Sorry, I was very much going into FI land. So that's what I'm saying. Like when I'm in my savior TE state, I'm really calm, chill. But once I dig down into my masculine FI, I do get very aggressive about those types of things that are in my FI values. For the most part, it has a lot to do with leave people alone and let people figure things out for themselves. Don't meddle, more or less the vibe of my FI, I guess. Okay. I'm getting all worked up. I literally recorded a feminine TE video. This is my fourth or fifth one, and it felt too robotic because I felt like I was just defining terms and trying to give like 10 things I noticed, and it was just all boring shit. So hopefully, this was a little bit more helpful in understanding what it's like to have savior feminine TE. In my next video, I would like to talk a little bit more about my masculine FI. It's single activated, but it's punchy as hell. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.